A really useful skill in algebra is expanding brackets, and it comes into lots of things, so it's something that you'll see many times. It's something that I think you can really work towards by concentrating on your understanding of the grid method for multiplication. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how you can take your knowledge of the grid method and explore that and take it to help you expand brackets. To begin with, I've got a question, a normal question about multiplication. So the question is question 1, 5 times 48. Okay, and what we would do is we would do it in a grid method. So I've drawn out a grid here and I've broken down the 48 into 40 and 8, and it's being multiplied by 5, and there's the multiplied by 5. So I work each of those out separately. So 5 times 40 is 200, and 5 times 8 is 40, and I get my final answer by adding those two elements, which is 240, so I'll write it over there. Okay, so that's how I would begin that. That's a typical grid method question. If we have a look now at a next step up, you can see there is a bracket involved now, so we have to just make sure we see how that's worked out. This bracket here has got x as a variable inside it, and you can see I've split this bracket here into 2x and a 3, and it's being multiplied by 6, and that's where this comes here. So let's see what happens when we do this one. So 6 times 2x would be 12x, and 6 times 3 is 18. And as before, I get my final answer by adding together those two bits. But in algebra terms, 12x plus 18, you cannot simplify that any further. So the final answer for this question is 12x plus 18. Okay, now to take this on to the next level, you can see that on this question, question 2, I had a multiplication sign, and there isn't one here. And that's just because when you move on to a higher level of algebra, people expect you to understand that when you write a number in front of a term or a bracket or a variable, that you mean 4 times that thing. So here I have the bracket, 3y plus 7, and there's my 3y and a 7. And what it means is it wants me to do 4 times that bracket. So there you go, 4 times that bracket. Right, so let's try and answer that question now, the same way as we've done the others. 4 times 3y, that would get me 12y. And 4 times 7 is 28. So the final answer is 12y plus 28. Now if you were just to focus on this part here, this is a bracket and here is its expanded answer. Let's do a couple more of those just to make sure that we know what we're doing. So there we are. Right, so this one I've got less assistance here, so you'll notice my grid is kind of empty. There's not very many things here. All we know is it's a multiplication, so we know that we are expanding this bracket. And if we think back to what we did before, what I did was I split the bracket up into the two parts. So 7x, and there's the plus 2, and it was being multiplied by 10, so it's 10 times 7x plus 2. And if we try and go ahead and answer that one now, 10 times 7x would be 70x, and 10 times 2 is 20. And again, my final answer is 70x plus 20. Okay? Right, so I would think you could be able to do these things. So it might be a good time for you to try and pause that video and see if you can have a go at this next question, and then I'll put the answer on for you to look at. So this question becomes, as you can see in the grid, 9 lots of 2x plus 5. And there you have the answer, 18x plus 45. Sometimes the questions are a bit more difficult. We have to expand brackets that are a bit unfamiliar, or perhaps they've got a negative sign or different variables, and that's what this sheet is about. So use the same idea to help you until you get used to it. So this bracket is made from 3x, and this time think of it as a negative 2, and it's multiplied by 5. And then if we try and answer these ones, 5 times 3 is 15, so 5 times 3x would be 15x, and 5 times negative 2, 5 times minus 2 is minus 10. And as before, the final answer, 15x, take away 10. And that would be the solution for that one. This next particular example is unusual because I've got a variable on the outside as well as the same variable on the inside. So we're going to have to see if we can cope with that. So this is what my grid would look like when I fill it in. And remembering when you multiply a variable by itself, you get a squared term. So 8a times a is 8a squared, and 11 times a, or a times 11, remember we always put the number first. So the final answer is 8a squared plus 11a. So now might be another good time to see if you can do it with the question number 8. So perhaps pause the video clip and see if you can answer it, and I'll put the answer on in a second. Okay, so you can see the answer now. So I got 10b squared because 5 multiplied by the 2 gets me my 10, and a b multiplied by the other b gets me my b squared, and I got 4b because it's 2 lots of 2b, and there's my final answer. I can't simplify it, I can't combine them because b squareds are different to b's, so I can't add them together. Right, what's really a good idea though now is, as you progress through your algebra, you will probably not want to be doing this grid method for every time you multiply out brackets. And also, it's not necessary when you begin to spot the patterns. So I'll show you some more questions, and then you can have a look and see if you could spot the patterns and perhaps do these questions without necessarily writing out the grid every time. So have a go at answering these questions. I'll pop the answers on, and then we'll see if there's a quicker way to do these multiplying out of brackets. So here's the first two answers, and again I want you to try and spot the patterns. Where's this 25 come from, and how did we get 15? Looking at those brackets there. And if you look at question number 10, 2x squared, why is it x squared? And then negative 9x, and again we should be able to spot that. I'll put the next couple on and we'll see what we can do about coming up with a pattern for all of these. So that's all the answers there, and let's think about what's happened. So if you look at these questions, you can see that everything in this bracket here has been multiplied by the number 5 to get these answers. Everything in this bracket has been multiplied by x to get these answers. And even though these ones look a bit more complicated, it still works the same way. So 3 times 6 gets me the 18, and I've got a y multiplied by another y to make y squared. I've got a 3y multiplied by a positive 3, so I get positive 9y. 11 times 5 is 55, and a d multiplied by d gets me d squared. And negative 7 multiplied by 11d. So negative 7 times 11 is minus 77, and there's my d. So hopefully you've seen ways that you can build up to figuring out expanding brackets. Everything in the bracket needs to be multiplied by the thing that's in front of the bracket. You just have to be really careful with the negative symbols that you might see.